June 14th, 2023. I get a motion to adopt this evening's agenda.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Get approval of the minutes from the May 10th, 2023 meeting. We have a motion to approve or any changes?
Motion to approve.
A
Second.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item number 4 is Chris Carbaugh, concept plan review for Bay Street. Like this.
Introduce yourself for the record, please, gentlemen.
Chris Carbaugh, principal with the Land Improvement Associates. Eric Davis.
Everybody can know where it is.
Yeah, that's old house, Main Street, that's for sale.
Right across from that. You know where that, there's the apartment complex there. That's that together spot, right?
Yeah. The one they just redeveloped, so.
You want to give us a little presentation?
Sure. So what we'd like to do is provide everyone this evening a brief overview of this residential project planned in Berlin. The site's located on Bay Street, Route 376, generally across from the homes at Berlin 2. The property is identified as tax map 301, parcel 865, and consists of approximately 2.8 acres. The property is zoned R3 apartment district. The property currently accommodates several single-family residences that are utilized as rental properties. Townhomes are permitted use within the R3, and with this plan tonight, what you see is a proposal for 20 townhouse units or apartment units. The one-story townhouse unit footprint is 23 by 34. We've provided a floor plan of the typical unit. I also was able to get my hands on what an elevation would look like that, if there's any interest in seeing that, we have those with us this evening.
Elevation up on there?
We did not get it in time to put them in your packets, so
It's going to be real important.
Okay. Why don't we do this? I'll let you guys
Town from Massachusetts.
pass
That'd be
these.
good.
Our house. And here's also, did they get the images of the elevation?
We did not.
no. We got the floor plan and the site plan, that was it.
Yeah, I think I was late. I got you those Friday. I think I was a little late. So again, it's a one-story structure. Each apartment's approximately 780 square feet. The plan does comply with, the district density requirements, which is 1 unit per 6,000 square feet. So again, permitting 20 units. Setback requirements are front yard 25 feet, rear yard 35 feet, and a minimum of 6 on the side for a total of 15 feet. This plan does comply with those requirements. All units shall be provided 2 designated parking spaces. Approximately 1 acre or 36% of the site is proposed to be retained in open space. The proposed 40-foot access road right-of-way will accommodate a 24-foot wide street with curb and a 5-foot sidewalk on both sides of the street. So with that, we're here, looking to, assist the town in a known housing shortage, not only in Berlin, but Worcester County. And with that said, we'd be pleased to answer any questions, but more importantly, hear what comments you might have regarding the proposal.
Are these planned for rentals, or are they going to be for sale, or
For rent.
all rent?
How much you think your rent's gonna be, ballpark?
For the two-bedroom, it would be anywhere between 14 and 1,500.
And that's today, I think you'll look.
There's 5 complexes that surround this property. That is the current going rate at those complexes as well. All of them are 100% occupied. Most are not even taking applications any longer.
Are you the same one that came a few years ago for this, for plan right there for some houses?
No, ma'am.
Dave, has there been plans for this property before, years ago, or at any time, anything?
No, it's in the R3 apartment district. Those 3 buildings that are on it are, they're rented. They're usually rented, but they're not, I would call them substandard. They haven't been maintained.
It doesn't look pretty.
Property's been on the market for quite a while. Going back years,
Yeah,
I feel,
before you came.
I get calls about it all the time. What can go there? And I think that's part of what Mr. Davis is looking for here is just an indication that he can move forward with a project on it because property just keeps sitting there. I don't know. And the 3 units are, like I say, they're not up to anywhere near to code or, they haven't been maintained properly over many years, but they're still rented.
And we hope that the town finds this to be, an improvement for the property. For sure, we're talking, new construction, much needed housing. Mr. Davis has, rental properties throughout the Eastern Shore, maintains or has a management company. It's been successful doing this type of project for many years.
You have wetlands delineation?
We've had the site looked at.
Do you have a wetlands delineation?
We don't have a JD yet. no.
Okay, put that in the file, please.
Oh, yeah, of course, it's required.
These elevations are far from acceptable in my book. Major entrance from Astig Island to Berlin, it's a pretty big thoroughfare. That architecture has nothing to do with its origins around here. The renovations that have recently been done around there to the other buildings, which look much better than that, I think you need to make a major improvement in the elevations.
Okay.
I think a 2-story would be more appropriate with what's across the street. I believe those are all just, everything was rehabilitated or...
It doesn't look good to me. It doesn't look like it's anywhere near deserving of the neighborhood. I'm sorry, but that's, we've had problems with, this kind of stuff, and it needs to change.
The front elevation, I could go back and get that dressed up. The 2-story townhouse, I've got some of those. They're 2 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. I was gonna put another bathroom in here, so when it's done, it'll be 2 bed, 2 bath. But if you go 2-story, with the cost of what construction is now, the rent would have to go to probably $2,200, $2,300. I know the numbers very well. I know what construction is very well. The cost of money is just, so I built this exact plan. And I came up with this floor plan to get away from the 2-story townhouse because it serves the same function. I built this floor plan about 95 or 96 times. The residents like it a lot because it is on one floor. They don't have to fight a stairway, I should say. And I agree with you that a 2-story just looks better. But it would price, the $1,500 rent would get blown right out of, like the Verniers, the new apartments they built across from the high school look terrific, but I think a 2-bedroom starts at $2,300.
I understand your evaluations and stuff. We have our evaluations.
Sure,
also.
no, I appreciate that.
The town's worth a lot of money. We can keep it that way.
Yeah, no, I think I could take the elevation to like a Chris Cady and probably dial it in for, no.
Well, there's things that we could do, yes. to,
You know, your
you
people
know,
are
basically,
coming
and
to
it's-
Berlin from Assateague, back and forth. Look at those two places. Find someone who can take parts of those and make that in-between place feel like it belongs there. This just doesn't belong anywhere.
I appreciate that, I can do that.
So with the road there, can people park on that main road?
No. No, with the way the parking, the driveways come off of the, you know, it'd be a depressed curb, you know, they'd come over, have, you know, basically a perpendicular parking space with 2 parking spaces in front of each unit.
Yeah.
So there's not room to park on the street.
Okay. I mean, I personally like to see some level of overflow parking. I mean, 'cause I live in a townhouse community, and when there's no overflow parking, it is a nightmare. Don't need a lot of spaces, but I mean, what happens if someone has a third person come over? Where do they park?
Yeah, we're just looking at trying to comply with the code of, you know, 2 spaces.
No, I get it. It's just, I go to Delaware for work all the time, and parking is very tough in those communities. And it's to me, like, it was an afterthought, and it's made, to me, those communities, it's not, it's annoying. And I think every time I come up here and I see these, I always just ask for, it doesn't need to be a lot of overflow parking, but a handful of spots somewhere, somehow.
Okay.
Dave, will they be able to take part of that community open space and make some parking in the back? Is that a possibility?
Well, they have a requirement
I
for
suspect
open
that's it.
space on the aggregate
Yeah.
of the land.
I don't know
But
what
I
portion
think
they
he's
were.
over that right now, so some of it, yeah.
I mean, you got 20 townhouses, so how many spots were you thinking that you'd like?
6, 5,
6 to 8?
6, somewhere there.
I mean, I get it, yes, if you have somebody over for dinner, it's like, where are you gonna park? I don't know.
It's tough.
On a Friday night.
Well, and there were comments
Same
I saw
thing.
that we dropped off yesterday, because we received them yesterday from the Berlin Fire Company. And they were saying this, you know, they know it's a concept, but we try and inform them when things are coming in front of us. That's part of our contract for the town with them to do that. And they said that the 40-foot right-of-way, the street should be posted no parking. So in case, you know, there's a fire or an ambulance call, they can get in, and also to turn around is key to them. 28, it's not labeled here, but I assume that's at least a 28-foot radius there at the end.
Oh, no, that's like a 45-foot radius. That's
Yeah,
a
but-
typical cul-de-sac.
That's what I said, yeah.
Mhm.
With a 40-foot right-of-way, it should be, yeah. So the turnaround's not a problem, but the parking could be.
Because you can't park in the roundabout or the turnaround, correct?
You can't park in the straightaway.
No, or in the roundabout.
Or in the
Right, or around, because it doesn't matter.
Anything turns out,
turnaround.
turn around, you're the road.
But it's gonna happen.
Yeah, typically there'd be no parking
100%.
along the whole street, yes.
Right. That was one of the fire company's comments, so.
I mean, potentially, we could look at maybe just a few parallel spaces in front of the stormwater management area, maybe along the street as a compromise, but, you know, that might yield maybe 3 or so spaces.
At the end of the cul-de-sac, you couldn't get a couple more spots
Yeah,
in there?
I might be able to get a couple up there. I mean, that's just, there is some topography issues up there. It drops off a good bit.
I mean, I respect what you're saying about the single story versus 2-story. I agree 100%. If you start making that, it's gonna be $2,000 a month, $2,200 a month, there's a point you're gonna price out the market if you are. The single story don't bother me. I think it definitely, like Ron said, be pretty up on the outside lot. But, because we need housing, that's for sure. Can't deny that.
Single story's okay with me, just, what do you wanna see, Ron? Tell me what you wanna see.
Something has some character to,
What-
you know,
what-
a
explain.
character.
Tell us what you wanna see.
Well, what we like to see is some guidelines so we can help everybody that comes up here.
Well, I know, but.
But something that has something to do with Berlin or Assateague or the country. This speaks to no type of architecture, no character.
Do you want to see like bricks on the first couple feet?
To see somebody who knows what they're doing, look at the community and what exists here and what Berlin is made of.
Do you like what they did across the street?
Yeah, that's a lot better than this.
So you like that?
A lot better than this.
Do they have a front porch? Is there any way of putting a front porch on there? Without-
Structurally, yes. Can I encroach on, can I encroach?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're already at the setback line right now, so anything coming out further towards the street would be an encroachment. You know, whether a porch can do that or not, you know, within town, or exception can be made. I guess we'd have to work with you guys and Dave on figuring that out.
Well, I mean, I agree with Ron, I could use a little spiffing, but, I mean, I'm not an expert on that, but I would like, somebody give you some ideas.
There's people around here that know how to do it.
I don't see any problem once for it.
I don't object at all to, making a more coastal style, more attractive, more interesting looking front elevation. I understand that.
That's what we're gonna have to have.
One story, okay?
No, I don't have any problem with that. I understand all those things. It's just this.
What do you want to see there, Ron? What do you want to see, some cupolas up there, or what do you want to do?
Well, you really can't talk about it that way. It's not like putting doodads here and there and making it work. It's starting fresh with some understanding of the local architecture. And you just don't slam doodads on something and make it work.
Well, the doodad that I think might work here is I don't like the double A-frame on the front. I think it does look horrible, but I know in my house, I have one of those false A-frames on my front porch, and I just projected it out with a portico, and that made all the difference in the world. Even a shallow porch, one bigger, frame coming over that porch with a couple posts, it goes a long way towards hitting the local architecture. And it wouldn't cost you any more, I don't think, than the double A's you have here. And the door, of course, is a nightmare. I mean, pick a door that I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, to me, just having a portico porch with a couple of spindle posts would be a long way down the road. I don't think it takes much. But then I'm not as architectural as Ron is, so.
When you say porch, I mean, this is the front door, right?
Well, you wouldn't have to be.
Is that the front door?
Yeah, it wouldn't have to be a full porch.
They're at ground grade now, what are they gonna do?
If you just project that main one out and just have one
Yeah, I
that's
know.
out.
Pete, let's not try to design stuff.
I'm just
where it
throwing out
flies.
some
I know,
ideas.
but then,
I want to give him some ideas, so I'm giving him some ideas. Single level's okay with me. And of course, I'm always looking for some big trees. So put some big trees that grow real fast.
Only way you gonna see outside, the lights out. Can't sit at home. Doing something to do, so. Yeah,
Yeah,
right? Are these subsidized? Any of them subsidized?
I accept Section 8 vouchers. I work with the VA, so, they're not subsidized in the name of, I don't have any HUD financing that would kind of put me in a different category, but yes, we accept in the open market all vouchers, all VAs, any programs, any housing program that there are. We work with all of them.
So we're good with single story.
Single story.
Looking at some parking.
6 spots maybe, you can find 3 maybe around the stormwater and 3 near the end of
Spiffy it
the
up.
cul-de-sac, spiff it up.
But generally speaking, everybody's on board.
Big improvement for that area.
100%. I've been seeing it for sale signs for how many years? And there's housing like.
I know, I think I even know the
I saw someone
number.
walking out the front door one day, I was like, somebody lives there?
This is concept.
Yeah, we don't need to.
No motion. Yeah, I think something with the front porch, like Pete said, with a,
I think
something a little bit more.
a 4-foot encroachment in the front setback for porches and steps. So that, I have to look at that more carefully, but I think you could probably get a 4-foot.
Yeah, 4 foot is something for the,
We've called it an encroachment, but I mean just a 4-foot extension out the front of, at least that gives you one one chair out front, or a couple of chairs out front, or planters, or, you know, whatever the tenant wants to put there.
Yeah, I think they make them a lot better.
I think 4 foot, we've allowed that before by, most recently, we did one on Broad Street. And the front porch, the way it was constructed, it was such a long run of stairs, it took it encroaching past the setback. And then we had, it was 4 foot when we consulted the town code. So I believe that would be, at least that would be possible.
Even the cottages got a little,
Yeah, I think that would really, really improve it. I mean, it looks like a, you know, 50s motor lodge more than a. Sorry.
So, yeah, when we come back with, you know, our site plan submittal, we'll be sure to have some improvements or options maybe for the elevation and, you know, hopefully that gets us over that hurdle.
What about the 376, the road access? Have you got that far with state highway?
We haven't, you know, that's, you know, our typical procedure is, you know, we'll be preparing plans for our commercial entrance with SHA at that time.
That area is already a reduced speed limit, correct?
right?
I think it's already down to,
Yeah, there's a little, this.
it's down to 30, I think, in that area, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a problem before with the traffic stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you mind if I grab those architectural plans?
Just the architectural set.
The ones I used,
I got it right here, man, sorry.
Oh, this whole set.
Yeah.
That's all it said.
No, sit back. Talking about-
All right, thanks.
Leave it again.
All right. All right, item number 5, Carbide Enterprises LLC, concept plan review, Germantown Road.
Bring some chairs on.
Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening.
For the record, Mark Cropper, I'm the attorney for Carbide Enterprises LLC, and I'll have everybody to my right introduce themselves. Go ahead.
Salvatore Benvenga, CI Design. Brock Parker, Parker and Associates.
Joseph Sherville, president of Carbide Enterprises.
Lauren Britt Hudson, team leader for the Brixton Keller Williams.
So pursuant to my email dated May the 19th, 2023 to Mr. Engelhardt, I submitted 3 different concept plans for the development of the subject property, which I know you are all familiar with, which is near the intersection of US 113 and Germantown Road. It's on the east side of 113. It has existing zoning, some B1, some R1. There are delineated forest retention areas. Wetlands have been delineated. Access to the site will be through Germantown Road. And first, I want to know if all of the commission members have a copy of what I submitted to Mr. Engelhardt, or whether I need to provide you copies.
What we have here?
You're talking about option 1, 2, or 2?
You have 3 different options, and then there was a page that had some additional detail on it.
This is here.
Yeah, we got it.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
All right, so the purpose for the 3 submittals, without question, the preferred concept plan of Carbide is what's shown on option 2A. And we will provide some detail with regard to option 2A. Options 3A and 5A are really there to simply show you that we considered other alternatives for the development of the site, so you didn't think that we just came up with one plan and only are presenting that plan as really the only option, but certainly option 2A, for a lot of different reasons, is the much preferred development plan by Carbide. So with that, why don't you state for the commission some of the details with regard to option 2A?
Some of the details in regards to option 2A, we have a mix of options here in terms of what we're going to provide. And given the location of the site, we found that it would be a good opportunity to create a placemaking type community that would bring value to the town of Berlin. Given our approach, it would be in terms of the architecture, we would certainly speak to the town of Berlin in terms of origins, context, some of the history, country type style, and that nature, whether it would be the retail component, the multifamily building, or the townhouses or villas, to make it a real comprehensive effort and present a real opportunity for the town, because we see this as kind of a southern gateway, if you will, coming up 113, and providing a nice welcome into the town of Berlin.
And because it's multiple types of uses, the concept here is that this will be developed as a planned unit development, correct?
Correct.
And obviously it has a retail component, a fairly small retail component that's shown on this plan, and other types of residential uses. Mr. Parker's here, as you're all familiar with Mr. Parker for engineering needs regarding the development of the site. As you know, Brock is familiar with Berlin, is familiar with the infrastructure of Berlin, and he would be involved in all engineering aspects of the site. But we really wanted to hear your comments, really, with regard to this plan before we go much farther and start spending a lot of time, effort, and money so that we can incorporate or take into consideration your comments with regard to the next version of this development plan.
You said there's more than one zone out here?
Yeah, part of the property is presently zoned B1 and part of it is zoned R1.
Yeah, I can't see the difference.
There is a horizontal delineation on the top third of the site.
Right here. I see it now. Just more than the hardware. I see it. Right here. See it? Dave, what happens with that? They need it.
Well, that's a question, because, and I think they've somewhat answered it with the planned unit development, because the R1 wouldn't allow the multifamily units just by right. So the question would be, how are you going to achieve that in the R1? Planned unit development allows you a higher density than the underlying R1 zoning. And the B1 doesn't allow dwelling units just by right on the first floor. B1 says if you have dwelling units, they're on the upper floors. Ground floor is supposed to be retail or service establishments. So the planned unit development would be that would be the avenue towards achieving this plan or any of the ones that you submitted. And I'll also, I'm fairly familiar with the northeast side of this property, that it is, as Mr. Cassio mentioned with the previous applicant, wetlands. And so I don't know if that's been taken into account here or not, but
It has,
I assume so.
Yeah, in fact, I have a copy of a survey that was prepared by Woody Bunning dated October of '01, and it delineated the forest retention areas, the wetlands, and the 3 plans that you see all are consistent with that survey. So that has stayed outside of those areas.
So there was a delineation done earlier.
Which kind of development have they done?
And have they changed since then? Right.
I don't know, I can't
Okay.
say where they have it,
Okay.
but these plans were based upon.
Okay. I would like to know if regs have changed in the last
Right.
23 years before we go.
Everything would have to be updated
Right,
before we did a
exactly.
final
Right,
plan.
exactly.
But I wanted you to know that
Right.
this set of
Has
plans
gone
were
that
based
far.
upon that
Right,
information.
Right, Ron, let me see it.
How many total acres? My eyes aren't that good.
It's approximately 7 buildable acres,
7.
out of a total of 12, and the balance of those.
Oh, so it's about 12 total.
It's about 12 total.
Which
and-
kind of 7 years.
Right, so that balance is all of the wetlands which we've delineated and separated from and made sure we stayed outside of.
And those acreages are on that.
Yeah, I just couldn't.
Okay.
So
Want my glasses?
I don't think that would help with those plans.
So the mechanism to, let's say, your preferred option is option 2A, is through a planned unit development.
Yes.
It's not to try and go through the BZA to get, okay.
It's a smart way to go.
That would be PUD.
Yeah. Okay. And, that was one of my questions to start was how much of this is on the R1 zone, and it's not very much of it from what I can see here. The rest is on the B1 zoning. And fire company had some comments also. The 3-story units with parking, if their cars parked there, they're worried that their ladder trucks wouldn't reach a 3rd story if need be for a fire. And just general access points for the ambulances. I see they did commend you for the large fire truck turnaround in the northeast corner there, because they're always after that in any of these new developments. Other than that, I'd have to see the breakout for the density for a planned unit development to know whether this many units is appropriate. I assume I know Brock is pretty thorough and you as the architect. I assume that fits in our planned unit development section?
Well, and the way we were looking at this, Dave, we wanted to first get comments, obviously, from the planning commission on the general layout and design of the project, and then figure out from that what approvals we would need to pursue in order to accomplish it. Certainly, the planned unit development provision of the Berlin Code is the most flexible and the most obvious. To the extent we would have to accompany that with a rezoning of some sort, we can always do that. But again, until we heard comments from the planning commission, we really haven't gone down that path yet. We were going to back into it once we had a development plan that we thought was doable.
If I may answer, according to the project data that we've developed, there are 45 townhouse units, and there are 44 condominium units, in addition to the approximately 9,000 square foot of retail.
And that's what you're talking about, 2A specifically? What is it?
It is 45 townhouse units and 44 condominiums. I see that you just have the images up there, but we've also supplemented with project data for each of the proposals.
And if you would, what is that same makeup of townhouses versus condos for 3A and 5A?
For 3A,
Okay. I'm sorry.
in 3A we have 38, 23, 61. For 3A, 61 total units. And for 5A, we have 58. 48, I apologize. 48, I apologize. 48 for option 5A.
Which is why you prefer option 2A.
61 for 3A, and 89 for 2A. And that 89 gets up there because of the density of the condo building. Aside from that, the other two are relatively in the ballpark of each other.
But that doesn't count the ones in phase 2, does it?
And we're also considering an affordable housing component with the condo option as well.
On phase 2?
Among that 89 you're talking about.
Correct.
Is that correct? It would be above the 89?
No, it would
Part
be
of the
inclusive of the
89.
89. It would be inclusive of the 89.
Well, you've got 13 units as villas, 32 townhomes and villas. That's 45, right? That's what you're talking about, townhomes. And then 3-story condos, you got 44 units.
Correct.
Okay, to the north of that, in phase 2, what falls into the R1, what's the total units there?
They're combined.
That's in the 32 total?
In 2A, the 32 is inclusive of those that are, the townhouses that are in phase 1 and those that are in phase 2 to the north. So it's 32 in total. Then you have a balance of 13 to the east in the villas, which gives you your total of 45.
45,
Yes,
and
sir.
then 44 is in the, I'll call it the blue shaded 3-story building, right?
Correct.
Condo units.
Yes, sir.
If I could introduce myself and just speak to this a little bit. These gentlemen, sorry, I'm Lauren, I'm with the Bridge team with Keller Williams, and these gentlemen reached out to me about a week ago because in realizing they're not local to this area, they came from a place of acknowledgement that they're a bit of fish out of water, and from a place of humility, we're looking for somebody that was local to the area, in which I am. I'm 3rd generation local. I come from a background of my dad being in real estate and development here for 40 years, and they wanted to know, what does the town need? What do the people need? What's going to be important to them? And so I understand where some of the thought process goes when it comes to being defensive of this area. I'm defensive of this area. I grew up here. And I know we've had a lot of outsiders and a lot of luxury high-end, and I'm acutely aware of where we've gone from 2019 with the median housing price being $246,000 to it being $425,000 as of May. We've wiped out the marginal buyer within about 18 months. And they reached out to me in order to help ascertain what, not only what's important to the local buyer, but what is the price point that's going to help accommodate that. So with the units, with 89 units using the condo building, the concept that I had come back to them with just in the last couple of days was, what really matters is bringing affordable housing to Berlin. These aren't rentals, these are home ownership. It's bringing the dream of home ownership to the marginal home buyer, which we haven't had in a very long time. And so it's not from a place of wild profitability and bringing out-of-towners in to pad their pockets and leave. These are gentlemen that are looking to truly have a consultant and bring in local builders, local architecture, local opinion, local retail. They asked me, what matters? How should we divide up the retail space? And my comment back to them was, well, I think with a high school, school across the way, Worcester Prep right there, something that would be beneficial might be like a local coffee shop, a Rise Up, a small sub shop, a pizza, somewhere for those kids to go, and the town of Berlin, where they use the word gateway. It is, and it's also some of the heart of Berlin. So with regard to the multi-unit and the higher density request, I just wanted to give the context that it's from a place of them reaching out for a consultant to find out what will serve the town.
These condos, you think about having an elevator in them?
They could.
They're gonna need to. I just, when we talk about what Berlin does need, I mean,
Sure.
we have a shortage of, I think, a place your grandparents to buy, get a condo with an elevator, something like that.
More than reasonable. Sure.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
are we allowed to talk?
yes, shortly.
At these meetings, you can.
So what is the, on the condo building, what kind of, without an elevation, it's hard to get excited.
Sure.
3 stories is scary.
Exactly.
You know, we did Oceans East and, you know, we got a lot of three-story buildings over there. We kind of gave up and said, okay, we need someplace for people to live. And it's congested over there. But now we're getting into the heart of the town. We are resistant to wanting to see more three-story apartment buildings because we've got a PUD over here in Perdon Crossing. And we have expressed some resistance there. We've gotten some accommodations, which is nice, but that was a long time ago we approved that. But now we're starting to say we don't want to be surrounded by three-story apartment-like buildings.
Sure.
So what kind of quality are we going to look? What kind of architectural features? Is this building going to be something that's going to add to the community, or is it going to be another three-story monster that's not expressive of the town?
That's up to us, really.
It is, but I'm asking what these guys, they're asking us, what do we want?
Sure,
I'm telling you
sure.
what I want.
And that makes complete sense. I mean, myself, I was born and raised in Baltimore. My summers were spent in Ocean City coming down, so I'm very familiar with the history, the architecture, the small town, the country. I mean, I have a great appreciation for that. I'm actually working on a project similar to this in Florida. And the way we're approaching that is, you know, there's ways to break down the massing of a three-story building to build a third level into the roof of a three-story building, to bring that massing down, to not make it one long, you know, monogamous elevation, to break
Somebody else
up.
proposed that with a roof with big
Right.
windows, which
To-
I liked.
Right, so you add those types of features, you have some ins and outs, you have some balconies, you have just various ways to break down that massing to bring it to a human scale. And that's the intention.
If I'm going to go with a three-story building, make it interesting.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Talking of scale, which I think is important here, 150 as, you know, kind of
113.
113 entrance to town. I like how in 5A, I suspect that you have in phase 2, you know, the way you mass those are more in tune to what we have around here. Not large buildings, but masses with smaller ones. It's more indicative of what you're going to find throughout this whole area. And I think that works better, especially where you're up there on the highway, where everybody's going to see it. You know, if that's why you did it there, you're going in the right direction as far as I'm concerned.
If I could share again, this was something they had reached out and asked about from a consulting standpoint. They were very clear about asking what's going to be the aesthetic that's going to be attractive to the community. And my response to them, which they are very amenable to, is they're looking, it's charm. There's a historic architecture, it's that Main Street quaint charm that makes this high-density, affordable income, or affordable housing location congruent with the rest of the charm of the town. So they are open and looking for feedback and coming from that place of telling, you know, asking what does the town want and need, and they've hired me and I'm partnering with them in order to help accomplish that. And I've already reached out to a couple of local builders. You know, these are not gentlemen bringing in, you know, Pulte and Centex and, you know, a crap quality build. They're asking, what does community need? They need quality housing from local builders that know how to build something that's gonna last. And I've already reached out to 2 local builders to simply ask, do they have the bandwidth to take on a project of this scope and size? And I have 2 well-known builders, without giving any details about the location, simply, do you have the capacity? And both have said yes. If I say, you know, names out loud, you'll know all of them. You'll know both names.
What I'm looking at here is, it's like a lot of people, there's gonna be families, kids, right? Not a lot of open space, there's not a lot for them to do.
As they cross the highway.
Where are they gonna go? What are they gonna do?
Dangerous
And
highway.
This is the problem with these high-density projects is, you know, you need somewhere for these families. I see no I see no yards per se for kids to play in. I see no, you know, so they're gonna be all over town, running around. I mean, you gotta have something for these people to do with this kind of density. So you need more open space and more recreational amenities on a project like this.
That park on 2A, obviously that's the bigger one of the 3. Do you know roughly the acreage on that park? I mean, are we looking at a half acre, is that an acre?
You're looking at about a third, roughly.
So not that big. And that's the biggest. For 89.
Sure, and we're certainly open to providing some additional open space.
What would you want to see, Newt?
I mean,
Playgrounds.
you're talking about a lot of people here, you're talking about, yes, some playgrounds. You know, a community pool would be great, like they have right there across the Decatur, but, and I know that takes a lot of footprint up for units that could, for private, I understand that, but, you know, these people, if it's all a bunch of, it's families with kids, and kids are gonna be all over the place, they gotta have a way to get across the highway, try to get into town, and of course, that's the town's problem if they do, I guess, but, it's just nothing for them to do, they're just gonna get in mischief or whatever, and they need, you know, if you're gonna market families, and they need places for the kids to play, something to do, games to play, whatever, a little community hall there or something, you know, for them to, activities or whatever, you know, but, this little teeny park is, it's not getting it.
And there could be some, you know, recreation space, so that, you know, tennis court, basketball court, you know,
That's
something
something
like
like
that
that.
nature. We could certainly look at that.
What's this, is this your property? I mean, what's this little finger of woods coming in? You don't own that, right? Is that what you're saying?
Which one?
Wetlands probably.
Wetlands.
Oh, coming down in between the two?
Yeah,
That-
right here.
Those are wetlands.
You own that property?
We did.
What's this, there's no, you can't put any kind of recreational facilities on the
Well,
wetland?
in that survey, I gave you new.
I had this done, this was Germantown LLC,
Yeah,
was-
right.
that's when I owned it.
Right.
But, you know, you just need more, I mean, more for these kids to do, or for families to do in this, or they're gonna be all over the place. It's just gonna turn into the, you know, project where nobody wants to live, because kids are running around, getting just nothing to do. In Berlin, I mean, we have some parks and stuff, but, you know, we need something on site where they can do, you know, entertain themselves to a certain extent.
Sure, that's really fair. And certainly, we could definitely consider that.
They use that retail space when you park there.
Yes, ma'am. Name, please.
My real name or my officious name?
Oh, my God.
Real name is Colleen Bunting, but I camp hunting. And I don't know if they're aware, I am a real estate broker at Bunting Realty, and this is lot 2B, correct? Okay, lot 2A is owned by Mr. Hoyle. And I was a real estate agent with that property, and he has the stormwater management, there's an agreement. Stormwater for his property has to be on 2B.
That's correct, I remember that,
Okay.
you made it.
And also, they have an easement, they have a perpetual non-exclusive easement for the purpose of ingress and egress from Germantown Road for the placement of utilities in the area of 2B, 2A, and 1A. So I mean, I just want to make sure that that's addressed. And I agree with Newt, this doesn't show any area for kids. So I mean, I think that's very important, but I just want to make sure. Were you aware of this?
That's where someone, yeah.
All
Yes.
right, do you need, somebody needs a copy of this property?
Well, it's all in
Is it recorded,
the chain of title, I think.
the fill agreement? If not, Brian will email you a copy.
Yeah, just have him email me a
Okay.
copy.
Sure. This, it's doing this right
I was
here.
trying to find my file, that's why I was late, I couldn't find my
Right.
file.
Yes,
Are
just
you
email
referring
me.
to the corner there? Is that the?
He owns this, yes, lot 2A.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's the corner.
And the reason that was done was to accommodate, Worcester County Developmental Center pushed us so much on, when they bought the bank, that they,
Right.
you know, we had to demand that to keep 2A worth of it,
Right.
exactly, you know?
This says private road. Is the retail going to be open to the general public? The entrance road says private road.
It's not town road.
But it's going to be general public entrance to this project?
Correct.
Correct.
This is one.
It's just not town.
I mean, I like the idea of the retail area. I expressed that the first time around because it keeps people from going across the road. I get into town to get some ice cream, a cup of coffee on Sunday morning, whatever. I think that's good. I like that. It gives it a community feel. But I agree that I was looking at the park on these plans and thinking, boy, need a little more park here for this many people. I'd hate I mean, maybe the retail thing has to be deferred to a park, I don't know.
It's going to be a good hangout place for the retail.
I hate to see the retail go, but on the other hand, I do think the park space or recreational space is important.
Maybe we can just reduce the amount of units. I understand the need to fill the space up, but we need to accommodate people living there too.
I'd say I'd go with what you're saying, Ron, as far as the cottage style as opposed to the three-story condo buildings. I like the 5A better as far as the, you know, in the middle of phase 1, phase 2. That's going to deal with the town a lot more than a three-story condo building
On the highway.
I don't want to see that.
I second that.
Are you speaking of that typology for, just to replace that particular piece?
Yeah, I'm saying, I like that, what you got on 5A, all those villas, cottages, whatever you want to call them, compared to the three-story condo buildings. Townhomes.
And the large expanses of buildings that are not broken up.
I like you got the walkways between the cottages.
I mean, open space sometimes is all you need is a couple feet, 10 feet, 20 feet in between two apartment buildings.
Sure.
Where kids can play.
Sure.
When you pack them in like you have in 2A, I understand why you're doing that, but that's not working. That's not our.
What's your difference between a villa and a tenant?
The difference would be, it would be a little bit bigger in terms of square footage. It'd be wider. It'd be wider. The villas would be a little bit wider. Those would be
Townhouse is 2 stories?
the higher, the townhouses could be 2 stories. We could certainly fit that.
No, I said, are you planning on 2 story or one?
It's going to be 2 story with a loft.
Right. It was mainly 2 stories with a loft, considering that one.
Villa's 2 story?
Yes. And since they have a little bit of a larger footprint, we could get more square footage and still keep it a 2-story structure.
And who's going to rent the retail, you think?
Pardon?
Who do you envision renting the retail?
The retail, we would certainly want to tap into the local area for that. I mean, it's about 9,000 square feet. We're not looking to put a big, huge footprint here in terms of retail, but still to offer something to the community. A coffee shop, a small pizza shop, a convenience store, things of that nature that could feed both the immediate community and those that are surrounding, because, I mean, I'm sure you're all well aware that up and down 113 in that particular area, there's nothing in terms of any kind of retail. It wouldn't be
People in Germantown with nothing to do.
Pardon?
People in Germantown east of there with nothing to do, with nowhere to go, a lot of them.
So how does that work with the private road to go to the retail?
It's just not a town road.
Just not owned by the
It's
town.
not intended to be any kind of gated road or anything like that, it's just that it wasn't a town road, so that's how we delineated it. But the intention is to serve both the immediate community and the surrounding environs with that particular piece.
You know, I'm in retail myself, and it's the obvious thing, the corner there is where we put that place out of business in about 15 seconds once it opens there. So there's one there.
So the retail's going to be several units within that 9,000 square
Correct.
feet? Okay.
Correct. Right, again, is to cater more to the smaller businesses that are, to help them grow and expand and make a name for themselves as well.
Between 5 to 7 different stores.
Right, around 5 or 7 different tenants in that regard. And the way it was located and oriented, we're providing a kind of an open terrace, open to receiving, the community itself. It's got, drive aisle all the way around, appropriate parking, an easy kind of in and out, and all those necessary components.
So you're going to sell the retail area, or you're going to keep that, hold it and rent it?
That'll be to be determined at some time in the future.
I mean, that'd be a great community center,
Yes.
no bigger than it is, that would be for the whole, if you want to sell your houses,
9,000 square feet of,
something to do, yeah.
and be open year round where it's.
Yes.
Because like Chris says, once something comes on that corner, whoever's in that retail is gonna break camp anyway, because, it's gonna be tough to get back there to it, and the guy on the corner's gonna have whatever he puts in there is gonna probably be some kind of big convenience store.
It'll always be covered in its it'll be owned by callback.
Could it be permitted to have retail space on the first floor with a community center on the second floor if an elevator was in the building? That gave that, just that entire 9,000 square foot footprint?
I don't know about okay, but it sounds like heading in the right direction.
Right.
Again, these gentlemen are looking for advice. They're willing to be flexible. And to Austin's point, when they asked me initially, they showed me these 3 plans, my first response was, from the aesthetic standpoint, I like the duplexes. People like to have an end unit, they don't like to be cramped in a narrow, skinny place.
Low windows on the side.
Absolutely, and the reason that I spoke up is I said through, I understand where the feeling comes from about a condo and is this for profit? It was not, and the reason that I mentioned for low, middle, average income housing is there's a need for that. So certainly from a moving things around to have a place for people to go so they're not getting into mischief, I certainly understand the concept, and they're willing to be flexible. It's why they've reached out to me and have asked me everything from what elevation would be appropriate, what's going to be the proper aesthetic, what's going to be attractive, what does the town want? And so they're very willing and flexible and amenable to doing what's going to be in the best interest of the community.
We've heard that, thank you.
And remember, the PUD is a great tool. It gives you a lot of leeway. It also requires giving back things. So,
Of course.
it's not for free.
It's a conversation.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Any comments from out there? Anybody have questions? Yes,
Are these units?
can you state your name, please?
I'm sorry, Cindy Hoffman, I'm with the Bayside Gazette. Are these units rentals or are they owned? Owner occupied?
I think they stated home ownership.
Sale.
They're intended to be for sale.
That's
Correct.
exactly what we want more of. Not large complexes which we make no taxes from,
Sure.
that don't pay their own way when it happens that way.
Right, because the intent is to attract people that are wanting to stay here more, longer, and make it more of a home.
Well, just from a tax standpoint, we get very little from the rentals. That thing over there by the high school,
Right,
we get pennies.
right. Well, and that revenue also spreads not just from the home ownership, but,
This is
being in and about the community.
This is people being a part of it.
Correct.
Also paying taxes.
Right. Understood.
Would it be fair to say everybody likes 5A better or best?
I think that's the direction we went.
Matt?
Headed.
I'm still kind of in a quandary about it. It just depends upon the business options and what the real need is for housing. And condominium is not totally antithetical to me if we're providing some open area somewhere. If you build a community center over the retail, I'm open to what might work for you if that condominium is important. If it's not,
And we were looking at the condominium as another component to offer to the community in terms of different price points. We wanted to have, your entry, maybe your second home, and then something that's more permanent, and have the flexibility to offer that across.
there are a lot of moving parts to the economics of it, not only
Correct.
for you, but for your consumer.
Right.
And
Right.
we're interested in getting quality housing that's affordable for people around here to live in. And if
Sure.
we have to cram more people in, but it works with open space and whatever you can provide, then maybe there's a push and shove there to where we can find a happy medium.
Sure.
If 5A is not working for you.
Density done well, we like that. Not done well,
That's why we have
Oh, wow.
PUDs, to give you density breaks, and we gotta serve the market. So I'm flexible on this.
So at 5A, your smallest unit you guys would be offering is 2,100 square feet. But with the condos, you have a lot, you can units 1,100 square feet. So the price point's gonna be considerably lower, I assume, than those. Or there's some type of, I'm sure there's some yearly fee, or monthly fee.
Correct, there'll be a wide, and that's why we looked at 2A as offering the most variety to attract the widest market in that regard, from price point, from offering those that are, downsizing and just want a condo that don't want any grass to cut or something, something like that, versus those that would prefer, having their own home and a little bit of property to work with as well.
Maybe if you had the condo, you could go with some of these townhouse ideas where you have some yard space between. Open it up a little bit.
Mark, or maybe Pete can answer. I need a lawyer.
Let Mark do it.
Mark.
Which one you paying?
He's getting paid. Mark,
He's already.
how does a condominium regime gel with a homeowners association?
I was just gonna ask that question.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
It does.
We have
all
one.
the time. You-
We have
You'd
one.
have a homeowners association for basically the duplexes, and then you'd have a condominium association for the condo.
So the common elements of the condominium stop within their
The
parameters.
parameters of the condominium. Back behind the wine rack in West Ocean City, all those residential units to the west of Hoopers, between Golf Course Road and Hoopers, basically, you have multiple associations. You have a master association, and then you have multiple underlying associations. Each underlying association has its own covenants, but they all have to comply with the master association. And you can also have a condominium association as part of the overall project. So it happens all the time.
So they would end up paying like 2 monthly fees, right? A condo
Yes.
fee and an HOA fee.
But usually, yes.
Part of the reason that we had spoke to not necessarily have, I'm sorry.
Okay, no, go ahead, please.
I said part of the reason why it's spoken to not having so many amenities was for the purpose of serving a more average income household. To that point, with the higher density occupancy of the condo building, when you start adding in a lot of amenities, like a pool, those are gonna come with additional fees that have to be spread between all the homeowners. So, yeah, they reach out to me for consulting on a pricing standpoint. So somewhere, well below what is the median right now with 425,000, that's not affordable income or affordable housing. So it's finding somewhere.
Amenities are gonna help sell your units, and plus, they're gonna help the town to control the people and the kids who are on site, because if they have no quality of life on this site, they're not gonna wanna live there.
We don't want them crossing the highway.
Sure, understood, absolutely.
I have 2 boys myself, and they're just full of energy and need the space to run, so I completely understand.
I mean, I understand 2A. I'm not against it. I understand the purpose of it. Especially we talk about putting some type of community space above the retail area. Find a place to put a basketball court or something. Not everyone wants a 2,100 square foot house as your smallest
Exactly.
option. That's gonna knock out a lot of people who wanna move there. And I assume, once again, the price point on a 2,100 square foot townhouse is gonna be dang near twice at least what the condo is. So it's gonna change who if we're trying to get affordable housing in here. We're not doing it with option 5A.
Ron's buddy wants you to have 800 square foot.
Well, I think we're getting in line with
Yeah,
it.
but we're starting to get there. I think, looking at more smaller units. I know it's more parking and all these other things, but I think that's gonna accommodate, talking about accommodating people. There's a huge demographic that's not being addressed with smaller housing.
Across the highway, you might have a walkway to that right or something. You're gonna have changes when you're going across the highway
What is right across?
for pedestrians and stuff like that.
Restaurant there,
Oh, yeah.
And then it's
Wherever you
woods.
go.
It's just right there.
And the prep school to the west as well.
Well, there's a red light there now.
I know,
Yeah,
because it's
children
across.
Still dangerous.
Take your hands.
There's a red light there because somebody died.
All right, well, and you've got a lot of suggestions. You got a lot of suggestions to work on.
No, but they've been good suggestions. They have, so.
Just a community room over the retail to cut in second market. A gym, some exercise equipment, exercise room over that. That is really useful, and
Doesn't cost a lot.
it's been discovered, people want that. That's a real amenity.
Sure.
Treadmill and some lifting weights and crap, and a place to go in the evening and do your thing.
Pete the gym right now.
I'll be in the gym now.
Yeah.
I mean, that or even a room to rent for when your kids have a birthday.
Yeah, heck of an amenity for me, I'll tell you that.
Especially if you have
That'd be
small
certainly
units.
worth the consideration above the retail, or have something on the first floor as well. I mean, it's 9,000 square feet, it's a fair amount of space to use, and, a lot of community centers are, even some of the larger ones are 3,500, 4,000 square feet, something like that, so it's more than capable of working that into this program. to provide additional amenity for the.
Maybe one of those pickleball courts people are into, or something like that, you know, with a basketball court, you know, that.
As long as they don't fight with the tennis players.
So, we appreciate you guys coming in for this. That's how, like,
Well, thank you.
do things, having conversations, and if you can pull off what you talked about, that'll be a great thing, and we can use it for the next people that come in trying to do something.
I really like the overall concept. I like the retail area. Have a cup of coffee or something like that.
Something where you don't have to go and drive to.
Exactly, we don't want any more drivers. They don't work.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate Thank you very much. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
We all got more to do.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you.
Just, would you register me everybody's name? You want me to get up with,
Send me an email. That way I'll stay sure.
I'll just email Station.
I don't know.
Hey, Dave, can we just jump right into the brew house, the Berlin beer?
Well, you want to
Jump in some beer?
All right.
I guess Adam came back because last time
They
we
bring you
had-
free samples?
Not yet.
You asked him for some more information, and he brought in drawings just yesterday. He was waiting to get them himself. So they didn't make your packets, so there's a few up there that you could share, the larger site plan.
Yeah, I got final drawings Monday, immediately hit up Staples, and they can turn around to me Tuesday morning, so I brought them as soon as I could.
So, you know, as far as, we had continued that discussion at the last meeting, and he's brought in some.
Yeah, I mean, the four things you had mentioned to me were signage, an exterior lighting plan, a landscaping plan, and the all-important Berlin bike racks. So I hope they've incorporated everything. We have kind of gooseneck style lighting that will be surrounding the building. Bike racks are on the southeast corner by the railroad tracks. I want to make that kind of cohesive with the eventual plan for hopefully the rail trail. So be a nice little parking landing pad for the bike walking trail on the bike racks. We've got a bunch of landscaping, raised planters on the front facade on the south wall as the entrance as you come in, and then kind of lining the bike or the railroad trail and the exterior of the beer garden along the railroad. The front signage you can see on the first elevation drawing A201. And then there's a little bit of additional signage on A202 on the exterior on the north face of the brew house addition.
You got your bike rack.
It's all, we need some in this town, this is tough.
I agree.
I tied up to like fences 24/7.
Maybe you can put some like horse tie-ups along the
Hitching
the
post.
front head post there.
At this
Yeah.
point, I'll take it, I'm gonna show up on the horse.
And Dave, the parking spaces that back out onto the road, is that?
I'm not looking at it, because I gave you all the color copies.
I was asked about The parking spaces that are right on, literally on the road, or,
There's gotta be, it feels like it's like 12 feet.
it looks like, it has one.
15, I mean, it looks like there's quite a bit.
You talking about towards the front?
Yeah,
You're talking by the dumpsters there, right?
On Harrison?
yeah, I walk by, man, I mean, it feels like there's plenty of space for cars there.
I think it's legal or whatever, or allowable, whatever, allowable.
Yeah,
Thank you,
Permitted.
thank you.
it would be. It's out of the right of way.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Allowable. How many L's are in there?
I have a quick question. Sure. Mr. Davis, the parking spaces, like, you're gonna leave them as it is now, there's like white posts that are there. Is there any way, can you put any more substantial there? Is that allowed? 'Cause I just think of like,
You
you
mean, like
know how it is now, like,
different bollard? They're called bollards.
okay,
Jersey.
You know, a lot of times you see them in front of AC units or gas.
okay, yes.
They make all kinds of them, yeah.
Even something more little contiguous, like whether it's like raised planters, I don't know, I'm just saying, it seems like it's easy. God forbid somebody walks in front of their car, something like that.
Yeah.
I've always been, even as it is now, I've always like,
Yeah.
watching out for that.
That's a good suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, we can
I
do
don't
something
know if it's
differently
allowed,
there.
that'd be an allowable thing.
And like you said, it might give you a chance to dress it up even,
Yeah.
but also have more protection, right?
That was my concern, is, I don't know, who knows, you got a little kid going out,
Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely.
darts out,
Yeah.
God forbid.
Good suggestion.
You had made a point, and I don't know, I mean, did you have someone look at actually the parking spaces if it works? Because when you come into the front, you start turning these spaces, is it too tight? Because they're diagonal right now, right?
Yeah, they are.
I mean, it's,
I mean, honestly, they're nothing right now.
well, that's fair. There's
Yeah.
like a handful, and I'm not trying to be tough, I'm just
Right.
really wondering
I
if,
would like them to be more delineated than they are, or
Yeah.
ever were. I think there are some kind of angled stop bar or concrete things on at least one side. We would certainly delineate them a little more precisely than they are.
I just want to make sure there's enough, like,
Well,
they're usable.
what we were talking about was that they come in here and then their car has to swing way over here to line up to get in there straight, you know, the angle. Do you lose, if you angle it, like, do you lose some of these parking places if you angle it?
Possibly. I mean, as far as I know, our architect did it kind of based on standard parking allowances and parking lots.
Okay.
So it should be possible.
And generally, the angle gives you more
Gives you more,
spaces
it does.
than
Yes.
90 degrees.
Right.
Yes.
The problem with angling in though, then you would need to back all the way around that way to get out. So I don't know if that would be feasible on the entrance.
After a beer.
Well, just take a look, take a look.
That's why I have a playground, Ron.
Marking, you know, the paving marking often makes a huge difference in how you move people in and move people out, you know. Whether they're angled or not, the spaces, you know, as long as you're marking the lane for them to back out and drive off.
Dave, you've had a few beers now, take that into consideration.
True.
No, I thought is if you're entering the parking lot on the front of the property and you have angled in parking, then you would need to make a wider than 180 degree reverse to exit, you know?
And then, or you'd be backing out of Broad Street, which would not be good.
Right.
Which we don't want.
It's just tough either way, I think.
Right.
No, once again, the architect put it in there, then I'm sure it met the requirements. I just wasn't sure if you just kind of drew this up and
I do nothing.
got it.
You accepted every
No, I don't know how to
responsibility.
draw.
Did he do anything with lighting or?
There should be gooseneck style lighting across the whole, all of the exterior of
It's
the
on the
building.
building.
You see it on the elevations.
We won't see any bulbs.
The porch is lit from underneath that front overhang.
They're
Is
recessed.
that-
Right now, there's long things.
We replace all that soffit, right?
Yes.
Might want to just put some like LED recessed in there.
It looks
Okay.
good.
Yeah,
Looks good and it works good.
yeah. She'll know.
Your signage, are these just ideas for now? I'm
Right,
assuming?
yeah, it would be something along that style. The text in the middle was not necessarily going to be our font or anything like that. It was just stylistic from our architect.
And on the one elevation where, I guess it's the rear, you show brew house. Kind of looks to me like that's a lighted sign, you know, like
There's like
a
raised
neon or something?
I don't want neon, no.
Oh, okay. I'm
It
just
might
saying
be
that
kind
would
of
be-
backlit from it. This is also, again, stylistic from our architect.
Right.
I guess that says Berlin beer in the center of it.
It's
It
not
was just-
sufficient for approval, right?
Sure.
Okay.
It was just a detail to put, an example of putting signage on that rear of the
Right,
property.
right. Location and size.
Mhm, Sure.
Yeah, and the channel letters backlit, they look good too.
Excuse me?
Like channel letters backlit,
Right.
it's less obtrusive for the neighbors,
Mhm.
and it also looks, in my opinion, it looks good.
Sure. Yeah, definitely not looking for any neon sign in the building.
And did you get with the fire marshal the number of parking spaces? That's still in the air.
I have not yet.
It's still in the air.
Yeah. I still need to meet with him in terms of possible sprinkler and stuff like that anyway. So we'll get there.
Looking good.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Hurry up.
I want to.
So, I guess then, if you satisfied your conditions from the last meeting, then we need a motion for site plan approval.
Pete, you want to talk about that tree in that one
I'm
spot?
gonna trust that I was gonna give you half.
What do you got there? in that
What tree do you
one
want?
tree? What do you got there?
I don't know, that's the showpiece right there.
Biggest
Okay.
tree you can grow there.
We'll talk about
Big
that.
oak tree that creates shade 100 years from now.
There was a walnut growing right there.
Uh-oh. Move the one from my yard over there and pull my garage up.
Walnuts are too messy.
All right, anybody want to make a motion to approve the
I'll make a motion.
Is it approved pending the agreement with the fire marshal for number of parking spaces, or is that when it comes back? to
That's what
the-
you have to do.
Now, the fire marshal, when he'll comment is when we're about to give them a permit. They don't get a permit without the fire marshal sending me approval.
But if the fire marshal determined they needed more spaces and we approved this,
So he would
then
never
it comes
get
back
a,
here for,
he would never get a permit from our department. The
That's
building.
why you ought to go to the fire marshal right now and find out what the deal is.
I thought the
well, I remember because the
parking-
last go-around, this was something we brought
You don't
up.
want to,
Right.
you don't want to know something at the end.
Sure, no, I thought the parking was based on the, customer square footage is what we were talking
It
about.
is for the town, but.
But if the fire marshal
Fire
can
marshal
sign
will-
off on it or not, go to him now.
Okay.
Right, I always tell them, go first, because they are
That's what I mean. They're gonna,
undermanned and, overmatched this time of year especially. They don't get to all the reviews quickly. They got a big job taking care of Ocean City and all of the events and all of the people. So they don't always immediately jump on the reviews. So if you're done with your building plans and your sprinkler plans, then take it to them right away.
Okay.
So then now saying, I mean, we
So
will
wouldn't
hold
it
them
be
up, wait, so.
A site approval pending, or whatever, approval from
No,
the fire.
we never wait for the fire marshal.
Yeah, we don't have
well,
So we don't need to.
Don't we normally know the required spaces
Until
though?
permanent.
well, we do by code.
Right, but we don't know how many spaces are required right now, correct?
Well, he's
Not
gonna
by
have to.
code.
Fire
Don't we?
marshal will tell them
We know by code, the fire marshal's gonna say, might say something different.
Okay. So this meets Berlin
I
code's
doubt-
parking spaces.
I really doubt the fire marshal's gonna say anything about the parking unless there was no access off the front or rear doors because of parking. That would be the only time they would comment. You can't get people out of there if the building's on fire, if the doors are blocked by all the parking. That you need safety egress aisles, and access aisles. Firemen need to get in, or an ambulance crew needs to get in the building. That's when they usually comment on parking, sidewalks, parking lot circulation. That's the only time, really.
Okay. Anybody like to second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Yeah.
See if this works.
Great.
I'm sorry, we held you Friday.
All right.
Lauren, I said, I will do it. And
Not here, but Friday.
I gotta go down.
Put this down. Adam. You want your drawings back?
I would love that back.
Yeah.
They go with a lot of money.
Yeah, save some money, save some money.
Sorry.
We got a knucklehead here, he's bumping, he's knocking them all up.
You're just playing. He wants to take him home a car.
Wipe your nose,
Did you?
Someone doesn't build this.
Sorry, dude.
I'll figure it out.
You want this thing out of?
You might want to give one of those to the lady with the base, did you want the color one?
Over here.
No, it's colored.
Probably wants it.
All right, anybody have anything else up here?
Show the side. Yeah, that's good, that's color, yeah.
Ron, I got that. Mine will want that. I know what you're going, mine's going to push.
For now, I have Bible study.
Too late now.
Is it?
Let's get on with it.
Dave,
Let's go.
I just had a question. Is this commission governed by that First Amendment hoo-ha that the town council's doing?
No.
No.
This commission, or any of the commissions, by town code, make their own rules. So if you wish to be,
No.
then they would, you'd all have to make a motion to do that.
That was trash.
And I'll just comment about the mayor and council meetings. They can run it in any way they want, and we always did have that, where public comment was at the end, okay? But more recently, what's been allowed is all the hand raising. I've been there, I have to go to those meetings, and interruptions, and so toning that down was probably necessary. But a total change
That doesn't work.
was probably not necessary.
Oh, it's
okay?
always happens. You
So,
overreact.
It's not Berlin.
you know, I mean, you can't,
I get it.
it's not black and white, that's
I-
all I'll say, you know, it's not like, well, he's right, but she's wrong.
Right,
You
that's
know,
right.
I don't see it that way, but some topics,
It had to be
they
right.
get run away,
Yeah,
I
and you
got
have to limit some
You
people.
put a time limit
Okay.
on it, you don't put a limit on people talking, you just
Or,
limit the time.
I always found, you know, and we haven't used it very often, but when you think it's gonna be that kind of topic or that kind of night, a lot heavily attended, a sign-up sheet works wonders. Because people, for some reason, they don't want to sign their name to anything, even to speak. Or they do sign up, and then when it comes time, someone else has made the exact same point they did, so they pass.
Purnell Crossing Apartments 2018.
Right.
Ruby.
Right. Right. So, but I think that works wonders.
I understand, okay.
Get everybody to sign in. You don't lose anything if they don't speak.
Right.
Well, those meetings are different than ours.
Absolutely.
A lot more topics, so.
And the point also has to be made for the mayor and council. The mayor and council meetings are for the mayor and council to do the town's business, not debate every bit of the town's business. I'll say that because that's true. They have to decide, you know, spend money or not spend money, or, you know, support this cause with a motion or a resolution. And not everything needs to be beaten to death in debate. It's not designed that way.
Cool. Ron, do you have a comment?
I think that this commission and the mayor and council need to completely revisit these short-term rental ordinance. We've been through a lot, we learned a lot, and we need to change the way we have that whole thing set up. We need real fines with real ways to collect them, and maybe a strike three and you're out deal where you'll lose your license.
What would be, I'm just curious, what would be a real way to collect it?
I don't know. I think, we don't know.
Well,
That's
our
the-
only- well,
we-
our
We
only-
don't know, that's the problem. We can't, you know, we have no.
I know, it's through district court. That's the only way
Well,
to-
through that, we could put a lien on the properties. I'm just saying it needs to be a discussion. What we've learned is that we're not prepared for this. And we need to come up with an ordinance that protects the town and the residents from what we've seen. That's one issue. The other is, I think we need to get Becker Morgan or Department of Ed in here. They got a huge thing going on down here at Buckingham, and we know absolutely nothing about it. We're the planning commission. They need to be in here. Somebody needs to be in here. Talk about what's going on before it's like, here it is, hope you like it. We're far,
Or with the
far too
elementary
gone.
school.
Huh?
With the elementary
Yeah,
school.
yeah, what else am I talking about? Yeah.
I don't know.
But the Buckingham
What are they doing?
Elementary School,
Renovation?
they're building a whole new building. We know nothing about it.
Obviously.
New site plan and new everything. The planning commission knows absolutely nothing. They need to be in here.
I agree.
Get them in here.
Have you been invited down or anything?
No,
Get them in here.
and I'll just say no.
Okay, and they need to show up.
The transparency is in the papers lately.
Don't put me on the spot.
No, don't do that. No, they need to be here. They should have been here a long time ago.
You know, I agree with everything that Mr. Cassio is saying.
If they come in here with a plan that doesn't work for us, then they're gonna say, oh, it's too late. We spent all this money, all this time. You need to come in here like these folks did. They're no different.
And when the commissioners were holding their meetings with their engineers about which was the preferred way to go, there were several meetings, commission meetings. I went to all of them. But as of yet, I haven't been in any meetings with the school board or the commissioners.
Tell them their permit is
Or the
waits.
county administrator. I have not personally been invited or present at those meetings.
And we signed the permit or not, the town of Berlin does. Bring us into the conversations before it's too
I
late.
1000% agree.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks.
Motion to adjourn.
Anything else, Dave? Just 5 seconds, Dave. Get him all riled up again. That's good. Motion to adjourn.
I moved.
All right.
So I assume
Oh, God. Now you're gonna be in trouble.
Okay, I gotta do my job, so feel like I get them. So that's why.